Kate, welcome. We are going to record the final edition of Learning Now TV for 2024, but it's going to be a little bit different. What are we going to do, Kate, that will make it a standout show that will be inundated with interesting and interested viewers?
I'm going to go and get my Mrs. Claus costume on. No, we thought that it would be a nice opportunity to reflect back on what's been quite a wild year in a lot of ways. And I was listening to a podcast last night actually, and it said, at the start of the year we might mention AI now and again. And then here we are, at the end of the year with it being, part of the fabric of, it seems, every conversation.
Yes,
So we
every
thought it would
conversation.
be a good opportunity. And, part of learning, like David Perring at Fosfo would always say, part of learning is, the opportunity to reflect as well. So it's a good opportunity for us to just look back on some of the big moments of the year, but also ask some of the great and the good what they think is coming for 2025 as well. So what are the things to look out for? What are the things you could maybe start research or bookmark articles on, etc. So hopefully a little
Yeah,
bit different. And,
very different.
useful. Yeah.
And we'll be dropping the conversations in with those people. We won't announce them. They'll just appear at the strategic moments throughout this program. So you've got something very exciting to look forward to. And if you don't care about Kate and I, you will care about the people that we've brought to you for their views of 2024. So Kate, let's kick off with you. Hopes, aspirations. What happened in 2024? Why did you think it was a challenging year? And where are we going in 2025? And then I'll respond to you.
It's hard to avoid cliches, I think, at this point, but it does feel like we're at an inflection point. The pace at which the generative AI technology has kicked in, I think, has surprised even people on the front line of, technology and engineering and product development. The pace at which it's, we're seeing autonomous agents working in HR systems already, the impact that it's having on, like there's low hanging fruit that I would call it. So there's been, the rise of kind of AI authoring tools, etc. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, really. And I think what's really interesting to me is when I spoke to John Fletcher, actually, he said, this was either the end of last year or the beginning of this year, and he said, we've got an opportunity to reimagine. And I think that's the exciting bit for me, because what we're doing at the moment is we're speeding up, or we're optimizing or autonomizing existing processes, existing workflows, existing ways of doing things. But the exciting bit for me is, what I call the whiteboard moment, which is, well, if we're going to redo this stuff, what could that look like? So for example, if we think about, so I work for Cornerstone. So if we think about something like compliance learning, there will always be a need for content and learning and mastery, actually, in certain areas, of course. But I think there's some of the more entry level, some of the more basic level things where actually, we'll have a co-pilot just monitoring what we're doing if you're a knowledge worker. And you're working on your laptop all day. And actually, if I click on something, or if I do something that I'm not meant to do, maybe it pops up, a quick knowledge check. And actually, if I fail that, then I go and do, a course. So I think it's just really interesting to just rethink how we do even some of the basic things without even getting into some of the, more exciting aspects of, things like coaching, immersive companions, and those kinds of things. So I do think from the vendor side of things, there's a lot of work and people are moving at pace to shift their AI products and solutions through in a more meaningful way. Because I think at the start of the year we just thought AI sort of stuck on everything, and it's not very meaningful or intentional. And I can feel that shifting now, which is really exciting. And then from the buyer point of view, there's a huge amount to think about in terms of governance and adoption. And I hope that we don't see too many companies go, well, we'll just get rid of these teams and automate everything, because that human element and that human touch becomes, even more important than ever, I would
Yeah,
argue.
AI
So
plus human. Yes, AI plus
yeah,
human. Yeah, I think so.
that's the optimum. So I do
Mm.
see jobs changing and shifting
Yeah, I do
significantly
too.
within the learning profession and beyond. But it's exciting. And I think the biggest thing I can say is it's also a great leveler. There aren't that many generative AI experts out there. Most people are learners in this scenario. Most of us are picking our way through, learning from examples. I subscribe to a couple of Substacks and newsletters and things about how to write great prompts and those sorts of things. But most people are not ahead. And I think that's exciting for organizations that sometimes might look at their peers or competitors or other organizations and think, well, we can't achieve that. We haven't got the budget or we haven't got the know-how. But actually I think it's a great leveler in terms of being able to move forward what you're doing and possibly leapfrog some of the less brilliant things that we've had over the years. So I'm thrilled and fortunate. I feel very grateful to have a front row seat to it all.
Excellent. I think we'll pause there, Kate, and we'll drop in one of our small interviews with a group of people who'll be very familiar to everyone watching.
So, hello from snowy Toronto. It is quite cold, and I've got my hot cup of coffee. So, hopefully, I'll be able to give you some insights. What I was asked to talk about is what is one thing I'm reflecting on in 2024, and what do I see as prediction coming out of 2025? And I think what I would be most excited about are AI coaches. In my opinion, AI coaches are set to transform workplace learning simply because they can offer personalized, adaptive, and on-demand support. And I just don't believe that static courses can match that. The investment dollars are also staying the same. By 2025, the AI workplace learning is projected to reach 6 billion. I believe that's USD was where I was getting the statistic from, signaling this is a massive shift in how organizations approach employee development. So why do I care about it? Well, I think first of all, there's the power of personalization. An AI coach can analyze individual performance, skills, and create hyper-personalized learning paths. And this is really different from one-size-fits-all courses. AI coaches can adapt in real time and ensure that, every employee receives precisely the guidance they need and when they need it. Now, I realize a lot of what I'm talking about is a bit of magical thinking. We're not quite there yet, and it's going to take some time. So if you have been playing with AI coaches and you are getting a little bit frustrated, know that it is a work in progress, and AI takes time to learn. Machine learning, takes data and experience in order for it to really work at an optimal standard. But this is the direction of travel. And when we think about it, this level of customization is going to keep learner engaged and motivated because they're always working on relevant skills that directly impact their job performance. I think the other thing that makes me really excited about is I think of all the learning tech that we have for scheduling and when we have to have people, a facilitator and all of that overhead, and AI coaches disrupt that. They integrate seamlessly into daily workflows. They offer micro coaching, and it doesn't disrupt productivity in theory. I mean, a lot of, again, what I'm talking about is things that are still being developed. But, think about this. Imagine you got instant feedback on a presentation you just delivered, or you get a quick tutorial on a new software that you're struggling with, all without even leaving your desk. So this just-in-time learning approach is immediately applicable. And I think one of the other significant advantages of AI coaches is their ability to democratize access to professional development. Because human coaching has traditionally been reserved for, executives, and we think of all of those leadership programs that can take up to 50% of the budget of an L&D function. AI coaches can support humans at all levels of an organization, anytime and anywhere. And this scalability actually makes me really, really quite excited, because I just don't believe that leadership coaching should be something that's only reserved for executives. I think the other thing too is that AI coaches are going to continuously analyze performance data, and they're going to be able to identify skill gaps and predict future learning needs. As some of you might know, I'm really obsessed with data-driven insights, and I really think that AI coaches are going to give us a window into what is happening on the ground, and what people are really having gaps in, and what people are looking for assistance with. And I think it's going to allow organizations to stay ahead of the curve, ensuring that their workforce is always equipped with the most relevant skills in a rapidly changing business landscape. So, in my opinion, AI coaches, are they fad? I don't think they're going to be another tech trend. I think they represent a fundamental shift in how we approach workplace learning. I think they offer personalized, accessible, and data-driven development opportunities. And I do think they're creating a future where continuous learning is seamlessly integrated into our daily work lives. And I hate to say it, but I think that static courses will still be soon be relics of the past. And I think employees are going to embrace the dynamic, engaging, and highly effective world of AI-powered coaching. Let's see if I'm wrong. Maybe I need a hat that I will eat if I'm proven wrong. But maybe I'll see you on New Year's Eve of 2025 and we can debate it.
For me, 2024 was about the art of the conversation. Online, in events, so much of the conversation was around AI and how to bring it into the flow of work, how to bring it into L&D, but at a very individualistic level. Sometimes it broadened out into teams, which was great, but rarely was there a conversation around how am I going to enable my organization to utilize this technology? How can I enable my employees across the organization to use it? So much so that a lot of times when I was seeing Copilot being rolled out to a lot of, or to a global audience, that very limited amount of training often went alongside it. So 2024 is a lot of talk, a lot of conversations, a lot of good insight and a lot of good understanding. I think everybody dabbled with it in their own way, utilizing ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, or other solutions out there, and really experimented it. But to bring that into the organization, I think was a challenge. Moving into 2025, though, I think it's probably the year of experimentation properly. And what I mean by that is I think we're going to start to see a lot more organization-wide solutions being rolled out to be used for everybody in the business. I can see a lot more advancements around some of the technologies like AI agentic coming through, and a lot more around automation being presented as solutions for some of the activities that we don't like to do. But I also see the human side of the 2025 becoming extremely important, making sure that as human beings we are empowered by AI, not powered by AI. And I think that's really important to make sure that we keep the human-esque element throughout all of this. And it's definitely a big focus for me moving into 25.
Thanks very much for that. Really contrasting and interesting bit of conversation there. I think you'll agree. For me, I agree with you about AI. Only someone who was slightly brain dead really would say, "Oh no, I don't think it's going to be an influence. AI, minor influence on the world. It's going to be a maximum influence." But I think that idea of a co-pilot, someone to help you through, someone who will speed up your work, make you more proficient and efficient and productive, is the direction of travel. Until it gets into the systems, and this is where it's really interesting, when AI starts to manage and enhance and maybe sometimes control some of the systems and processes rather than just people, just individuals. And there we're into a whole new ball game, and that could be dramatic. And someone has to manage that process and oversee it in the organization. Why not L&D? And I think the only people who would stop that happening is L&D, who see it as not their job. It's absolutely your job. But for me, I want to go flip over. And that is, I want to see a much bigger concentration on the way in which people interact in organizations. I think AI is the perfect, if that's your individual interaction, build the knowledge, share the knowledge across your teams. And I think we're going to see much more interaction inside organizations where they work out how best to cope with AI. They use it collectively rather than individually. And therefore, the whole organization begins to work more collectively. And my prediction I made on From Scratch with Martin was that we'd see a resurgence in the use of communities of practice. Now, that runs contrary on the one hand, but I think it's actually a direct byproduct. People will want to get together to pool, share, and build their knowledge across the organization. Because a hell of a lot of stuff it's just been got on with. Therefore, they can focus on the bigger knowledge needs. So maybe we'll pause there and bring in another person and see what he or she has to say, and we'll come back in a minute.
I'm Helen Marshall, Chief Learning Officer at Thrive. And as we head towards the end of 2024 and probably start looking ahead to 2025, I think it's always worth reflecting on the year that we've had and where we started and where we've ended up. One of the huge benefits of working vendor side is that I get to talk to so many amazing learning leaders and learning teams and talent and people teams who are really focused on the right things for their people. And I've seen that time and again throughout this year of this balance between how can I really make an impact for my people whilst driving the business forward, but also manage the demands of meeting immediate needs. So I think I've seen some amazing work that's really clearly had an impact on the people that the people we work with are serving on a daily basis. And I'd love to see that continuing into the new year. So if you're heading into 2025 thinking about what are my plans, what's my strategy, just take time to think about all that you've achieved over the past year. I've seen people really talking about building effective relationships, about managing stakeholders and expectations, about bringing people along on a journey through effective communication, and about tracking the right metrics along the way as well. We're thinking about upskilling in areas of data analysis, of thinking about the bigger picture around problem solving, around critical thinking, and around how we align learning and comms as well. So it's been really positive to hear a lot of good news stories coming out of the learning teams that we work with, because I think it's all too common to focus on those negative aspects about how I can do more, what haven't I done well enough, what should I be doing that I haven't done yet, when actually people have really achieved a lot over 2024 in really quite challenging times, specifically around resource and budget, which are always the things on people's minds. So do take the time to reflect, think about where you've had the impact. And if you're thinking about opportunities for 2025, how can you double down on the things that you're already doing well and identify areas where you can improve over the coming year? So best of luck in 2025. Reach out if you have any questions or want support. I'm always here and looking forward to catching up in the new year.
Thank you for that. What about you, Kate? What do you think? How are you in that area?
I think I wanted to pick up on something that you know that I was thinking about when you said what you said earlier. So we've sort of focused on the tech because that is, you know, the big story of the year. But obviously, you know, you had, you know, your book published this year. And, you know, one of the areas that you always research and look a lot into is the culture side of things. So I wanted to build on what you said there about communities of practice and how you think AI might affect or impact that the cultural side of organizations and, you know, that learning culture in particular.
I think it's going to be huge. But one of the things I've been trying to speak to people about is one of Wenger's concepts called legitimate peripheral participation, which sounds like a big mouthful, but it's actually very simple. What it's saying is that we need to enhance and respect and recognize the people on the fringes of things and help them come into the center. And perhaps the ones in the center begin to move out towards the fringes and maybe outside, outside the community of practice. But if you get that constant churn of beginners' naive insight ending up interacting with lots of experienced insight, that churn is going to be highly productive. And what we'll end up with is not AI taking over, quite the opposite. Human beings taking over, because they will be ahead of the game, having shed a lot of the baggage that bog them down and stop them doing interesting work. So I think we'll see a lot more interesting work. If we see a lot more interesting work, aka a lot more innovation, organizations taking big steps forward in the next year, and they have to. I think if you take Cornerstone, your organization, Kate, I can't believe there aren't people beavering away in Cornerstone as we speak, thinking, what's Cornerstone going to look like at the end of 2025? And it probably won't be similar to the way it looks at the end of 2024. There'll be some big shifts because it has to accommodate a different kind of world. Would you agree?
Yeah. And what's interesting, actually, that process it is underway. And what's interesting is how challenging it is for some to lift themselves. And this is not just a Cornerstone thing, right? I'm seeing this everywhere. But it's hard to reimagine, right? To do like what I called the whiteboard moment. It's hard to lift yourself out of the day-to-day and think about that. One of my best friends works for Microsoft, and she is like a co-pilot champion, and so she's always getting people to understand how they can use Copilot to help them do something, I don't know, in Excel, and then that cuts the time of the task in half, and they can spend that other time doing something, to your point, sort of more strategic or more impactful,
Or
but
more creative.
it's quite hard for us to get out of that grind, and that to your point around the churn, that made me think about the sort of reverse mentoring as well, and it will be interesting to see where that comes from, because I don't think that's an age thing anymore either. I think,
No, it's definitely not.
But I could see it being up and down in the organization. So, someone, for example, who's using AI a lot in engineering, reverse mentoring somebody, at senior leadership level, because they haven't had the opportunity to learn how to, manage with a co-pilot or integrate AI into their workflow. So I can see a lot of that. And so that comes back to your communities of practice point, actually, which is really interesting.
It really does. Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. I also think that because AI exists in the organization, people will spend more time talking to each other. A, because they've got the time, and B, because there will be important things to share and insights share. If the organization wants to survive, if they don't, then just do it on your own. Take away your own insights, solidify your own performance, forget about everyone else, forget about the organization. That is the way of death, I think. That is not going to be a successful implementation. But you're quite right that as we see things like AI influencing spreadsheet development and creating more ideas, rationalizing debate down, helping organizations boil down debate, helping them find the essence of things. It inevitably, in my mind, leads to more and better conversations. And that's the crucial thing. Probably should stop there, Kate. Another couple of points coming through.
Let someone else have a say, yeah.
Let someone else have a say, yes. And there's some very interesting says that we've been listening to already, and more to come.
Well, thanks, Nigel. My hopes for 2025 are that learning and development elevates itself to a far more strategic position. And I think that's the sort of thing that has been talked about for years and years. And I'll tell you why it's my hope and aspiration for the industry is because if we don't, it will go into the fears that I will talk about. So I think in order to be strategic, I think L&D needs to really take the conversation about performance and productivity to the most senior level in the organization. And I think that means really getting underneath the data, the market insights that you have, the internal data that you have, and also bringing it all to life in terms of the employee insights that you sit on. Learning and development is privileged. It touches every part of an organization. So therefore, it has this huge opportunity to feed that back into the organization at the most senior level. The reason why that's really important now more than ever is because of AI. And I think that is suddenly a tactical rabbit hole down which this industry might take itself if it's not careful. And that really, really concerns me, because all AI tools are learning tools, and they're all in the hands of employees right now, and they're going to get better and better and better. And it doesn't need to be a learning tool to provide a learning experience. They're just tools that you can talk to that will help you do your job. And if that's happening, what does that mean for learning? So I don't think this is not a navel gazing year ahead. This is a really trying to sort it out year ahead. So my aspiration is that we can have a much more cohesive industry-wide voice on what it is that we do in terms of value and impact at a strategic level. And I don't know where that's coming from currently, but I really, really hope that emerges and we have more of those kind of conversations, because I think that's where the win is. Because we know, I'm lucky that we look at lots of research over the year for LNTV, and we know that employees want it. They want to learn the skills. They want to have a good job. They want a career if they can. This is what they want. And leaders of organizations want organizations to be able to learn and develop the right skills to be successful. So we're all kind of going in the right direction, and learning needs to seize that and elevate itself into that conversation. The downside, as I said, is that we may just be eaten by AI, and we then sort of become a function that just services tactical needs all the time. And I think we can move beyond that, because learning is what we do as humans. It's immensely powerful, and it leads overall to our happiness and success. So I think that's a great aspiration for us for the year ahead.
Do you think it's going to be a change year? Do you think it's going to be a definitive year, or another year?
I think at this time of year, when people are looking at the year ahead and looking backwards and sideways, there tends to be it can be easy to overstate whether it's going to be dramatic and transformational. We've had that. COVID completely changed the game, and no one knew that and saw that coming. So and that really did put paid to the future of work debate for a while, if everyone remembers that. I think it is, because the technology is hugely transformational, and it's just getting better and better. And it really goes to the heart of being able to help people do their jobs better. So if that's being taken care of in a new and different way, a cheaper, more scalable way, then I think we have to be really positioning ourselves in a more strategic way.
So, final thoughts, Kate. Do you want to tell us where you're going in your mind? Are you optimistic, pessimistic?
I have these moments of dystopia. When I flew to Vegas for HR Tech in September, which it felt very pivotal, and the agentic conversation really landed at that show. And I got there late, and obviously, jet lag and whatever. And I turned on the TV in the hotel, and The Matrix was on. And I was like, I felt a bit personally attacked as I watched it, because I haven't watched it for about 20 years. And I thought, oh my God, this is very dystopian. But some of the AI stuff, you think, oh my God, what future are my kids going to grow up with? Are they going to grow up and just work in a server farm and just service the AI? Or, I was lucky enough to speak to the World Economic Forum recently, and, they've got some predictions around the percentage of jobs that are going to look different over the next 10, 20 years, I think it is. And it's something really high, like 70-something% of jobs are gonna change. So then that reskilling, upskilling piece, the mobility piece, the nature of being able to do gigs and enable that mobility and that movement inside and outside companies, the nature of the extended enterprise, all these things that have been component parts of L&D for a long time, I think that like they have to come to fruition. And one of the consultants from the US that I spoke to, he said, there's going to be a reckoning around skills because it's hard, right? And it's not just L&D's battle to fight; it is right the way across the business. You can't address it without looking at recruitment. You can't address it without looking at rewards and recognition and performance and comps and bends and all of these things, and ultimately payroll, etc. as well. If L&D was ever an island, it's not anymore, and that's the biggest, actually alongside the AI stuff, that's one of our biggest shifts. Is if we're going to support and be a part of the success of upskilling for the future, like the World Economic Forum is saying, then we've got to move with that, and we've got to be able to work with our peers, work across the business, work with lines of business, and and take that moment to do that whiteboard planning of what that could look like and where L&D has a role in outside of some of the traditional probably more content focused aspects that have taken the time, because the speed of everything is going to increase. What do you then do with that extra time that you've got, because you're not spending so much time researching or authoring or editing or what have you?
Yes, I think that's right. I agree with you, and I think it's profound and important, this shift. But let's hear what a couple of other people need to say or have to say about this very topic of skills.
2024 was a busy year for learning news. I spoke to hundreds of practitioners about their work. The year started with Donald Taylor's L&D Sentiment Survey, showing the rise of AI in learning as the hottest topic ever in the survey's history. This will continue in 2025. Practitioners, commentators and market analysts see AI hype replaced with practical application. But it might look a little different to the way learning and development has worked in the past. The generative AI tools our learners are now using are fundamentally learning tools. This poses a question for those learning teams still stuck transacting training courses, which research shows still accounts for around half of L&D teams. If you work for a learning and development team, one thing you might have noticed is that it's no longer called a training and development team. This change took place for many around 15 or more years ago, but it was more than just a name change. Unlike training, learning happens everywhere, all around the organization, all of the time. It's a fundamental difference with new expectations, new opportunities, and a whole new mindset. All of the AI projects happening around your organization are fundamentally learning projects. The challenge for L&D practitioners is to engage with those projects, engage with the business, engage where learning is taking place. Facilitating learning and championing the kinds of organizational culture where learning can thrive. Aligning with the business has always been a popular topic on learning news, and in 2024 the amount of news we carried on alignment increased. L&D knows it needs better alignment, but where it's stuck with the transacting training mindset, it's struggling to adapt. I was at the Learning Network Connect event last month. One of the session hosts asked how many people could list their organization's goals. In a room of 150 people, just 2 hands went up. I believe this is our challenge. With all of the world's knowledge now available to everyone, to all learners, right in the workflows, the traditional training course is looking a little past its sell-by date. I'm not arguing it's dead. There remains an important role for exceptional face-to-face learning experiences. But in its old form, used to deliver skills or compliance in future, much of this is moving very quickly into the workflow right where it's needed. So where does that leave L&D folks? I believe there's never been a more important time for learning practitioners. In future, we'll need more L&D practitioners, not fewer. The work will change. Think consulting, facilitating, data analysis, and stakeholder relationships. There is so much change arriving. Learning is fundamental to all, and 2025 can be a fabulous year for L&D.
2024 was a great year in the AI revolution as we started to move from the initial disruption we had a couple of years ago to a state where everybody was able to pilot, everybody was able to use basically free tools. The democratization of AI in the population meant that everybody could have a go. And that was really good because it meant that the population as a whole was moving towards a better or higher skill base while using some of these tools. But it also meant that there was a lot of piloting, a lot of testing, and we didn't really see that much in the way of purposeful strategic deployment that starts to move the needle for businesses. As we start to move towards 25, and we have some exciting releases, particularly in the foundational model space, we can expect GPT-5 to come out potentially in the new year. We're starting to see a lot of really advanced video production tools out there as well, lots of really advanced image tools, and we're starting to get some bedding in around the use of machine learning and neural networks with data. As we start to move into that space, we also have the potential for chaos. So where we've been really making a lot of agents, how do you manage those agents? So we need some kind of hierarchy, and multi-agent modeling will come into that. But we're starting to see the potential for 2025 being the year of production, the year of purposeful deployment, the year of strategy, and the year where AI can start to make a difference to businesses. That means that we will start to see some very exciting use cases, but it also means we'll need to keep an eye on things like ethics and workforce displacement to make sure that humans and AI work together synergistically without having AI come in and displace humanity and society as a whole. So keeping an eye on all of these things, I think, is going to be really exciting in 2025.
Well, we've got a lot of interesting, contrasting views coming, Kate, which is exactly what we wanted on this show. For me, I think we're going to get away from rigid hierarchies and structures in organizations, and we're going to get away from rigid job descriptions. Now, I use my analogy, which is probably...
I don't think that'll happen in 25, though. I think we do need to do...
it's too far.
It's slow.
It may be slow, but it's like if we got rid of job descriptions, formal job descriptions, that would be an incredible revolution. My view is a job description is like a toothpaste in a tube, and we need to split the sides. Toothpaste has to ooze out, because what we want are people doing a job, preparing for the extension of the job, and preparing at the same time for the next job. So if you've got that team-based, you've got this exciting churn of innovation and ideas, and an organization kind of rushing to adapt to cope with these changes, and not the hierarchy and the structure forcing people to stop doing this and stop moving forward. So it's very challenging. I think we'll see some interesting new ideas emerging from organizations as they try and incorporate AI, but also make people's lives meaningful and rich, and make the work they do more interesting than it is now. I think we have that unique opportunity because of the kind of bedrock of AI, keeping everyone's feet on the ground. It's like an anchor for the ship, AI. And that allows you to plan and dream and scheme and try new things, I feel.
I love
Have
that.
a couple more. You like that?
Dare to dream. Well, I mean, like I said, I think the dystopian future is terrifying. So I choose not to believe that is what will happen. I choose, I choose to look for the good. I choose to see the opportunity in all of this. And, I think we've steered away from using the word predictions too much, because,
yes,
that's a fool's errand these days.
It is a fool's errand.
that opportunity to take that time to look ahead, it's really important. On that note, we would love to hear from you. If there's, what are you doing in 2025? What does your annual, I've had to submit my plan for next year. We run on the calendar year here. So what does your plan look like? What are your big rocks, that you're going to move? We would love to hear from you. And as part of the retrospective as well, we'd just like to thank all our guests from 2024, like from all over the world. I think we've covered all the continents. We also would like to thank our amazing channel partners. So I'm just going to read them out so I don't forget anyone. Charity Learning Consortium, Martin Baker, one of our biggest and longest standing
Long
supporters.
term, yes.
To the team there. TechWolf, a newer channel partner for us, obviously super exciting. They've just announced more new funding, really pushing the way there on skills, and Training Journal as well. Mind Tools, again, really long-term supporter.
Yes.
And of course, Rob and the team at Learning News. So we're super grateful to them for keeping the show on the road. Obviously, it's free.
And Henry Stewart. Henry's been a great supporter from the beginning. So thank you, Henry, as well.
Absolutely. All the team at Happy as well. So that's our sort of look back and a look ahead. We would absolutely love to hear from you. I'm sure we can get Colin to get the email address up on the screen. But if you'd like to be a part of the show in 2025, and like I say, bring sight to what's going on, come on down and enjoy. But happy holidays to those who celebrate. And we will be back on the 30th of January.
We will, 30th of January. And until then, sincere happy holidays and a great new year and optimism for the future. That's our message. Yeah. Optimism for the future. Thank you, Kate. Yeah. Always good to talk to you. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks always, Nigel. We'll see you on the other side.
See you on the other side. Bye.